Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, everybody, and if I may start by thanking our brethren in Bahrain for their wonderful hospitality and for hosting this very, very important dialogue. And John, thank you so much again for the convening of yet another important Manama dialogue at a time when we do need to have a conversation. We do need to have the kind of open and frank dialogue that Manama affords. So thank you for that. And it's an honor to be on this panel with you and with the Minister Parley. Jordan and France are solid partners. We continue to cooperate together in pursuit of our common objective of bringing about peace and stability to the region. Yesterday, New York Times, His Majesty was speaking at Winnip, and he said, despite all the crises of the region, he derives hope from the region's youth, the majority of the population of this part of the world. The youth want jobs, they want stability, and they want opportunity. The title of our session is Cooperation and Competition, and I think this is an area in which we must cooperate, and this is an area in which we must positively compete, because providing that opportunity to our youth is the path to the future of peace and security and stability that we all seek. To be able to do that, we need to address the many crises with which our region has been grappling for decades. In Jordan, we've been at the receiving end of every crisis. Also, we've been at the forefront of every effort to bring about peace and stability and to resolve regional conflicts that have caused our region tremendous resources and much suffering. To do that, we cooperate with our brethren in the region and with our partners in the international community. We do that on the basis of our common values, of the right of every member, every citizen of this part of the world to live in peace and dignity. To create opportunities, we have to overcome crises. Unfortunately, of these, there are many in our part of the world. The oldest of which is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which continues to elude a solution, despite the many, many efforts of many of us around here and many of the countries that we represent. We all want peace, and we all know what it takes to achieve peace, but we all know that very little effort has been done to bring about that peace. We cannot have peace with occupation. This is the reality that we all must recognize. There can be no security with occupation. This is the reality that we must all recognize. To achieve peace, occupation has to end. The path to that is clear. We've all supported a two-state solution as the only viable option for achieving that solution. Unfortunately, unilateral Israeli measures are compromising the viability of that option, leaving us with a state of hopelessness that is causing many other conflicts and problems and creating despair on which every radical in this part of the world and beyond is preying. Settlements are illegal. Occupation is illegal and inhuman. Demolition of houses depriving people of their right to live in dignity will not bring about security, will not bring about peace. This is the reality that we must recognize, and this is the point of departure from which all efforts to bring about security and peace must start. We have to reinvigorate the peace process in a realistic manner, in a way that can realize the peace that is a right for every citizen in this part of the world. It's a right for Palestinian children, for Israeli children, for Jordanian children, for every child in this part of the world. We have to move quickly on that, because unless we do, we're losing the chance for peace. And that is something that will haunt our region for many, many more years to come. In the past 2-3 years, the peace process has been quite honestly dead. No traction has been happening. Unilateral measures are changing facts on the ground, making a two-state solution an impossibility. If we do not move now, where are we going to be 1 year from here? If it's not two-state solution, it's going to be a one-state solution. And if it's a one-state solution, there are only two ways to go. Either apartheid, where what would be more than 50% of the population of historical Palestine will be denied their rights, or it will have to be an equal right for everybody. And is this something that going to happen or not? I think that's the question that we need to keep in mind. The other conflict which we have to address is the Syrian crisis. Again, in Jordan, we've been at the receiving end of that crisis. 367 kilometers of border with Syria. Conflict has been going on for almost 8 years. What's the end game? We all come together, we speak about the need for a peaceful solution to the conflict, but in reality, have we made any progress? Unfortunately, we have not. We in the region have to lead the solution, because we pay the heaviest price for the failure of achieving an end to that conflict. Millions of people have been displaced. Many countries, including Jordan, have had to deal with the burden of the conflict, not just in terms of security threats, not just in terms of disruption of our trade, but also in terms of having to host about 1.3 million of our Syrian brethren in Jordan. At a time when unemployment in Jordan is about 19%, when our GDP growth is under 2%, but we will continue to do the right thing in Jordan, because that's what Jordanians are, that's what they do. We've given about 150,000 work permits to Syrians. That's almost 3 times the number of jobs our economy can create on an annual basis. And unfortunately, again, we come together in conferences and meetings, we all speak about what needs to be done, but in reality on the ground very little is being done. The cost to that has been enormous, not just to Jordan, but to everybody in the region. What we need to do is, again, to have a regional grown solution for countries of this part of the world, in cooperation with our friends and partners, to move aggressively and actively towards a solution that will end that conflict, that will restore to Syria its stability, its peace, that will preserve the territorial integrity of Syria, and that would allow Syria to come back to play its role as a key country and as a main force for stability in our region. We also look at Iraq. Iraq has achieved a tremendous victory over ISIS. That victory came at a very high price to the Iraqis. It was achieved by the ultimate sacrifice, by blood, by people losing their lives. We need to preserve that victory by standing by Iraq as it tries to rebuild and stabilize, and to immune Iraq to the extent as possible from the repercussions of what's happening around us in the region as well. That brings me to talk about terrorism, a threat with which we all have had to deal over the past years. We all paid in blood as a result of terrorists and their ability to cause havoc, not just in the region but also beyond. ISIS have been militarily defeated in both Syria and Iraq, but the security threat remains very potent. That means more cooperation among all of us in terms of intelligence sharing, in terms of trying to mitigate against their ability to regroup. And they're also an ideological challenge with which we also are having to deal, and which, frankly, only us in the region can take the lead in this fight. We need to expose terrorists for the thugs that they are, for the outlaws that they are, we need to be very aggressive in our narrative that they have nothing to do with our religion and its values of peace and respect. And to do that, we need to suffocate their ability to spread their agenda of hate. That's why Jordan, His Majesty, has taken the lead in Aqaba process, which is trying to bring all of our efforts together in a comprehensive effort to have a holistic approach to fighting terrorism, suffocate their ability to spread their message, and produce narrative that will defeat their narrative and will expose it for what it is, a speech of hate that's outside not only our religion, but our common humanity as well. But in order to defeat Daesh as well, we need to defeat conditions on which it preys. That means we need to end conditions of chaos and instability and hopelessness that are spreading across the region. Daesh can only grow in conditions of chaos when people are desperate. We need to bring about hope, and that we do by solving the regional crises that unfortunately have been deepening over the last decade or so. And that's why I say we need to have a comprehensive approach, because the interconnectedness of our security is very, very clear. If you get Daesh in Iraq and Syria and you don't get them in Somalia, they're going to regroup there. If you get them in Somalia and you don't get them in East Africa, they're going to regroup there. And that's why the effort has to be holistic, and that's why we all need to work together. And again, the biggest challenge that we have to face now is how do we defeat their ability to spread their ideology of hate. That, again, is a collective effort on which we all have to cooperate. And I recall the meeting that Paris hosted for the Christchurch call, and that was a good example of how all of us can come together and stand together and show the terrorists that we are, despite whatever differences that we have, we stand united in challenging their ideology and in pooling our resources to fight it as well. My friends, the security of the Gulf is key to not just regional but global security as well. And I want to emphasize that in Jordan, we stand unequivocally with our brethren in the Gulf, with Saudi Arabia, with the Emirates, with Bahrain, in whatever measures they take to secure their countries and to ensure their stability and security against any threat, no matter what that threat is. My dear brother Sheikh Khalid spoke about relations with Iran, and I could say very comfortably that no Arab country wants conflict with Iran. What we want is regional relations based on mutual respect, based on non-intervention in the internal affairs of other countries. And that's why the call for dialogue has always been there. If we do not do that, then what is the end game? Where are we going with all this tension? And again, in all honesty and frankness, countries outside this region will be affected by conflict should it erupt in this part of the world. But the biggest price will be paid by us in the region, because it is us, it's our people, it's our stability that will be affected most. And that's why, again, homegrown, regional grown solutions are the answer. We need to come together around a narrative that emphasizes what I've just said in terms of our willingness to engage in dialogue, to bring about relationships based in international law, based in respect of good neighborly ties, and to move forward. And that, again, is an Arab position that has been there for many, many years, and we continue to stand by it. We need to end this tension. Nobody will benefit from yet another conflict in this part of the world. My dear friend, Madam Parley, spoke of the Arab League and other regional mechanisms for cooperation. And again, I have to say that regional cooperation mechanisms in this part of the world are lacking, and if they are there, they're not effective. We need to invest in multilateralism, which is under threat globally, but that has not really been as effective as it should be in this part of the world in particular. And that's why, no matter how much criticism there is of the Arab League, it's the only regional mechanism that we have within the broader sense. We need to support it, and it can only be as effective and as strong as the will of its members. We support the unity of the GCC. That has historically been a very successful example of regional cooperation, and I think we also need to emphasize how important it has been, and to state very, very clearly that we support our brethren's effort to try and resolve whatever conflicts that existed within that mechanism. These are times that are becoming harder for everybody. Multilateralism, again, is something that we've invested for decades, and it has worked. It has solved many of the conflicts that we've had. It has created blueprints for cooperation in many issues that go beyond security conflicts, in water, environment, water security, youth empowerment, women empowerment. All are issues that are still very, very important to all of us. If we lose that multilateralism, what is the choice? What is the alternative? Madam Parley spoke of Plan A and B when it came to the nuclear deal, but I speak of Plan A and B of everything else. Palestinian-Israeli conflict, no two-state solution. What's Plan B? We don't have it. Syria, a political solution. What's Plan B? We don't have it. Iraq, supporting Iraq stabilize. If we don't, what's the price for all of us? What's Plan B? We don't have it. So in all of that, I think what's lacking is a committed to mechanism for all of us to come together and put ideas on the table and work them through and make sure that they are translated into tangible, practical solutions that will enable us to address all those issues. This is a region that has suffered tremendous crises over decades. This is a region whose population, whose youth are yearning for opportunity. They're yearning for a better future, and unfortunately, we have not been able to give them that future that they deserve. And unless we cooperate, unless we work together, unless we cooperate and compete in a positive way, compete in creating jobs, compete in advancing good governance, compete in advancing good relations, we will not be able to create the opportunity that they deserve, and we will all suffer as a result. So I will just close by saying that we do have competition in the region. Unfortunately, it was not the right kind of competition. We did not have enough cooperation, so maybe the challenges that we're facing will, I think, compel all of us to cooperate more and to compete more, but in a way that will address the needs and rights of all our people. Thank you so much.